The sound that woke me up wasn't a knock. It was my door handle rattling like someone was already tired of asking permission. I rolled out of bed barefoot, heart thumping, and through the peephole I saw a woman in a blazer holding a clipboard like it was a badge. When I opened the door a crack, she didn't say hello. She said, "I need a copy of your house key, right now." Her name, according to the plastic nameplate pinned to her lapel, was Madison Crow, HOA, Compliance Director, Maple Ridge Homeowners Association. She said it the way people say federal when they want you to stop thinking and start obeying. "This is for inspection," she added, already scanning past me into my living room like she owned the air in there. I blinked and tried to keep my voice steady. "A key." "To my house," I asked, because sometimes saying it out loud is the only way to hear how insane it is. Madison didn't flinch. "It's mandatory. Section 15.2. If you refuse, you're looking at $500 a day in fines. It escalates. Liens happen. You don't want that." I've lived in apartments, I've lived in quiet neighborhoods, I've dealt with landlords and city permits and nosy neighbors, but nobody had ever walked onto my porch and demanded access to my front door like it was a library book. I could feel my face getting hot, that mix of anger and disbelief, but she was calm. Too calm, like she'd rehearsed the whole thing. "Okay," I said slowly. "Then email me the request and I'll review it." I reached for the simplest line of defense paperwork. Madison's smile tightened like a rubber band. "We don't do this over email. You're required to provide a copy. Today. If you can't do it today, we schedule an inspection and you will not be present." That last part hit me weird. Not, "You can be there," not, "We'll coordinate, but you will not be present." Like she'd already decided my house was a place she could enter without me. I leaned against the doorframe and stared at her nameplate again just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. "Give me the Homeowners Association office number," I said. "I'll confirm." Madison's eyes flicked left and right like my porch had cameras. "There's no need to clog the office. I'm authorized. I'm here now. Do you want the fines to start today?" It wasn't a dramatic threat. It was a bureaucratic one which somehow felt worse. She wasn't screaming. She was counting on me being too tired, too polite, too new to the neighborhood to push back. She was counting on me wanting peace more than I wanted control of my own front door. I shut the door gently, not slamming it because I didn't want to give her a moment she could twist into hostile homeowner. My hands were shaking anyway. I stood there in the entryway, breathing through my nose, listening to the silence on the other side, and I realized something: I didn't feel safe in my own house. And that pissed me off even more. I called the Maple Ridge Homeowners Association number from the welcome packet I'd gotten when I moved in. Not the one Madison offered, the one printed on official letterhead. A woman answered, tired but professional, and when I explained what was happening, there was a pause so long I thought the call had dropped. "We do not collect keys," she said finally. "We don't store keys, we don't request keys, and we definitely don't schedule federal inspections." The air in my lungs loosened like a knot. "So, she's lying. I can't speak to who is on your porch," the woman said carefully. "But that is not an HOA procedure. If someone is representing themselves as Homeowners Association staff and demanding access, you should contact local law enforcement." I thanked her and hung up. And then I just stood there staring at my kitchen counter like it had answers. Because now it wasn't just annoying, it wasn't HOA drama, it was someone trying to get into my house using a fake authority costume. I cracked the blinds and saw Madison still on my porch typing on her phone like she was drafting my punishment. She looked up and noticed the movement, then raised her voice, not shouting but loud enough to be heard. "Thursday, 2 to 4. Be gone. If you're here, you'll be in violation." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so bold it wrapped back around into absurd. She was scheduling my absence like a dentist appointment. I stepped outside, kept the door locked behind me, and said, "The HOA office says you're not authorized to request keys." Madison's smile didn't disappear. It sharpened. "The office doesn't know what I'm assigned to. This is compliance. Different department. Bigger picture." Then she lowered her voice like we were sharing a secret. "Ethan, don't make this difficult. Everyone else cooperates." There it was, the pressure, the implied shame, the "be a good neighbor." and for a second I felt my shoulders drop, that tired heaviness that comes when you realize you might be dealing with this kind of person for years. I thought about the endless letters, the petty fines, the board meetings where people clap when someone gets punished. I thought about how easy it would be to just hand over a key copy and tell myself it wasn't a big deal. Then I pictured someone I don't trust walking through my home while I'm not there. My laptop, my documents, my bedroom, my life. And I felt something colder than anger clarity. No, I said, you don't get a key, you don't get a code, you don't get access. If you have a legitimate inspection, you schedule it in writing and I will be present. Madison's eyes went flat. Then you're choosing consequences. She walked away like she'd already won, heels clicking down the walkway, and I watched her go, trying to tell myself that was the end. I wanted it to be the end. I wanted to believe that calling her bluff would make her disappear. But that night I couldn't relax. Every creak in the house sounded like a decision. I checked my locks twice, then 3 times, and I hated that I was doing it, hated that she'd gotten under my skin with a clipboard and a fake smile. I sat on the edge of my couch at 1:00 a.m., staring at my front door thinking, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this is just how these places work. Maybe the easiest thing is to comply and move on. Then my phone buzzed, a text from my neighbor, Mrs. Donna Caldwell, the older woman 2 houses down, who'd introduced herself on my first day with a plate of cookies and a warning disguised as friendliness. Saw that woman at your porch earlier. That's not HOA. She tried the same stunt on the Millers last month. I called her immediately. What happened? Donna didn't sugarcoat it. She got a spare key from them. Said it was for inspection. 2 days later, they noticed packages missing from inside their foyer. Police said it's a common scam, authority cosplay. My stomach dropped, and the last bit of maybe I'm being dramatic evaporated. Not because I needed to feel brave, because I needed to be smart. The next morning I called the non-emergency line and explained that someone was impersonating the homeowners association and attempting to obtain keys. The officer who took the report sounded bored at first. Then I used the word keys, and his tone changed. Do not give them access, he said. If they come back, call immediately. If you can safely capture video from your property, do it. So I did what anyone does when they realize they're being targeted. I tightened everything. I checked my camera angles, added one facing the porch, another covering the driveway, and turned on motion alerts. I kept my curtains slightly open, not enough to invite a look, but enough to know when someone stepped onto my property. And then Thursday came, 2:03 p.m. My phone vibrated with a motion alert. Madison was back, walking up like she owned the schedule of my life. She carried the same clipboard, the same practice confidence, but this time she also had something else. A small metal key ring dangling like a trophy. My chest went tight. Either she had a key to my house or she wanted me to think she did. I stayed quiet, watching through the camera feed, and I heard her voice through the porch mic, clipped and self-important. Inspection. Homeowners Association. Then, and I will never forget this, she leaned in and whispered, "You should have cooperated." She tried my handle. Locked. She tried again, harder, like the second attempt could rewrite reality. Then she bent down toward the lockbox on the railing. A lockbox I didn't own, didn't install, didn't authorize, but one that had appeared sometime in the last few days, like a spider building a web. My throat went dry. That was her play. Create a HOA access point, then act like it had always been there. Madison popped the lockbox open with a code she clearly expected to work, and pulled out a key. She slid it into my front lock and turned. The lock clicked. My blood went cold. Not because she was in, but because she'd made a key that fit. She pushed the door and stepped inside my entryway, and the second she crossed the threshold, my phone buzzed again. Not motion this time, but the smart lock status. The system logged the entry, time, method, everything. I didn't rush. I didn't scream. I didn't do anything that would turn this into a he said, she said. I hit one button, the one that engaged the interior deadbolt that locks the second door to the rest of the house. The entryway was a small mudroom space separated from my living room by a solid interior door, and Madison was now inside a locked box of her own making. She tugged the interior door handle once, then twice, then rattled it harder. You could hear the shift in her breathing through the mic. "Hello," she called, like she'd wandered into the wrong house by accident. Then her voice sharpened. "This is an inspection. Open this door." I finally spoke through the camera speaker, calm enough to scare myself. "Madison, what are you doing inside my home?" Silence. Then a quick, defensive laugh. "I'm conducting an inspection. In my entryway," I said, "with a key you are not authorized to have." Her tone snapped. "You're obstructing. You will be fined." "Police are on the way," I replied, and I watched her face change in real time, the confidence draining out like someone pulled a plug. Her eyes darted around, searching for exits, for excuses, for anything she could control. She tried the front door again, locked from my side. She looked down at the lockbox key like it had betrayed her. Then she did the thing liars always do when they get cornered. She started talking faster, throwing out words like procedure, policy, compliance, federal, as if vocabulary could become a shield. "This is Homeowners Association compliance. This is standard. You can't." The sirens cut her off. Not loud at first, distant, then closer, then right outside. Madison froze. For a half-second, she looked like a kid caught sneaking into a movie. Then she snapped back into character, straightened her blazer, and tried to look official even while trapped in my entryway. I opened the front door from my side, stepped onto the porch, and met the officers at the bottom of my steps. I didn't give them a speech. I just held up my phone and said, "She entered my home using a key she shouldn't have. It's all on video." One of the officers looked past me at Madison, still inside the entryway, clipboard clutched to her chest like it could save her. "Ma'am," he said, "step outside." Madison's mouth opened, and for once no script came out clean. I'm with the HOA." "The HOA office confirmed they don't collect keys," I said, and I watched her eyes flick toward me like she couldn't believe I'd checked. And that lockbox, I didn't install it. The officer's expression didn't change, but his patience did. "Ma'am, now." Madison stepped out, still trying to hold her posture, still trying to make herself the victim of my non-compliance. She got 2 sentences into her nonsense before the officer cut her off and turned her wrists. The click of the cuffs was quiet, not dramatic, which somehow made it hit harder. As they guided her down my walkway, her clipboard slid out of her hands and landed face down on my porch like a prop that had finally been dropped. I didn't follow. I didn't wave. I didn't feel victorious. I just closed my door, stared at the lock for a long moment, and let the silence come back. Because the only real lesson here is simple: never hand your safety to someone who shows up asking for your key.